Alright guys, hopefully you can hear me on this video. There's a lot of cars going by. That's crazy. YouTube is running really slow today. I thought it was the browser, but it's not, because I click on other sites and they upload. I've got the new Google Chrome that I'm using as a web browser. You gotta download Google Chrome. It's pretty cool. Mozilla Firefox still is probably because I'm used to using Firefox. It's still, I think, the best, but Google Chrome is not that bad. I like Google Chrome. If you use Google Chrome, click on account on your YouTube accounts and check out how they've done. They've categorized everything. Google and YouTube are up in their game. So we're going to talk Army life. We're going to recruiting duty. That's right. I had to drive from Fort Lewis to Oregon. That's where I was recruiting. I recruited out of a station in Medford, Oregon. I'll put some links over here. But I lived in Ashland, Oregon, and Ashland High School was the first high school they assigned me to. And I'm going to tell you guys, that was the most weirdest, liberal, anti-American town I ever lived in. I don't care what they say. I don't care what you say if you're from Ashland. Come on, it's true. They are anti-everything. You know, pot smoking hippies from Northern California, from Happy Land, California. Yeah. And not everybody. There were some really cool people there that I met. There was one guy, he was from Africa. He was, I don't remember exactly if he was, I think he was a security guy at Ashland High School, but he was a black guy from Africa. His name was Obvi. And Obvi that was my man right there. Obvi always made me smile, you know, and Obvi, sometimes I would go down to the high school just to see Obvi and say, Obvi, you know, because he always made me smile. He would always walk up to people and say, you know, you belong in the army. Or I can't do his African accent, but he'd say, hey man, you belong in the army man. Hey, come talk to army dude. Hey Sarge, put him in the army. And he was funny, but I always liked Obvi. But when I first got there, the first day there, it was in the evening, because like I said, I had to drive down there. It was probably about 6 in the evening when I got there. And I got me a motel, and I stayed in the motel for about a week and a half until and the Army paid for it, but until I could get me an apartment. And I got a nice little apartment that was run by some very tight idiots. They were really stupid. Most of the people in the apartment building, most of the apartments were college students. And it was just a little kind of, I don't want to say studio apartment, but it kind of was. I guess it was a studio apartment. It had a 1-bedroom, bathroom, and the kitchen was separated from the living room by a bar, breakfast bar, which was really cool. But you know what they did one time? They sent this memo around, and we had little porches in front of when you walk out and you're on a little porch there. I forget what they call that, but then you had a stairwell that went up because it was three floors. So you had the staircase, and then you had the other person's porch across from you, the neighbor's porch. And I always swept my porch. I always kept it clean. Everything was tight. Sometimes my neighbor across from me would let dirt and leaves build up on their porch. So they sent this memo around saying if the porches aren't kept clean, then both people in both apartments will be fined $50 a month for the rent. So I sent it back, a note to him saying, look, my porch is always clean. I said, and if you're going to charge me for the neighbor's porch being dirty, then you go ahead and charge me. I said, when I take you to court for a refund of that money and I win, you're going to pay me more than just $50, you know. And I said, you can either retract that memorandum, or you can say, look, the porches are separated by the stairwell. Stairwell back to your door is your responsibility there. So I sent him this real nasty note, you know, and I said, go ahead and try me. Bill me because my neighbor's porch is dirty. And I never did. I never got charged or fined or anything for that. And I did it anonymously. Of course I did. You crazy? I'm not stupid. I reported to my my recruiting station, and it was run by a guy named Gary. I won't say his last name, but he turned out to be a real loser, and we'll go into that later. But he was just a real weirdo. He was a whack job. I don't think he knew how to lead. He was more of a car salesman than a sergeant in the Army. Because even though I was an Army recruiter, I was saying to myself, I'm not a salesman, I'm a recruiter for the U.S. Army. I'm interviewing people to put into the Army. I'm an Army sergeant, I'm a leader, that's what I'm going to be. I am not going to be a salesman. And some of those guys in that office were salesmen. I mean, literally car salesmen. They were lying to these kids, and I was like, are you guys stupid? We're in a small community of, 52,000 people in the county seat, which was Medford. 101,000 people in the whole county. And you guys are going to lie to these kids, and they're going to come back here and they're going to tell their friends. I remember one time Gary, the station commander, this guy walks by our window, and he stops and looks at the window. And he was reading one of our posters, and then he takes off walking, and Sergeant's in the other office, and I was on the phone. I had just hung up the phone. He goes, "Hey, Sarge, go get him." I'm like, "What?" "Go get him. Go get him." I'm looking at Sarge like, "Are you crazy?" He goes, when I was in the regular Army, usually a sergeant listened to his supervisor and obeyed the orders. I go, "Yeah, when the orders weren't, 'Fetch, doggy.'" I said, "I'm not a dog. You're not going to go, 'Fetch.' Okay, you want to fetch the guy? You go get the newspaper, okay? Bring it back and smack me on the nose with it." And he didn't talk to me for like the rest of the week. But he was just real weird. And he ended up getting relieved, and they had this other guy come in. Ray was his first name. And he came in and like, "I'm here to change some stuff. I'm going to change some stuff. We're going to start putting people in the Army." Because we had the worst recruiting station in all of Oregon and possibly the West Coast. We put nobody in the Army. But we were, like I said, we were from a liberal community. It was anti-everything. These people hated everything. I ended up making a lot of friends, both with staff at the schools, and a lot of the high school students would just come up and talk to me. And I actually had a teacher once. This kid came up and he was asking me questions about war and stuff, and I was talking to him, and he goes, "All right, man." And he walked away. This teacher walked up and she goes, "That's amazing." I go, "What's that?" She goes, "That kid used to yell at recruiters that come here and call them warmongers and baby killers." She goes, "The fact that he came up and had a conversation with you, that's amazing." And I'm like, and the reason was because I just talked to the kid. I was just talking to him. I was treating him like a human being, And that's what you had to do. And so I kind of started getting in with a lot of the people. And one of the ways I did it was I just didn't talk to them about the Army. I mean, they know I'm in the Army. I got an Army uniform on. But I would ask them about other things. The football. I had a lot of football players that would come up and talk to me because I talked football with them. We talked college football and stuff. And through that, some of them would ask me about the Army and then say, "Can I set up an appointment to talk to you about the Army?" "Yeah, sure." That's how I would do my interviews. Some of the other guys in the office were just walking up to people. "Hey, you ever thought about the Army?" "No." There you go. You never want to start anybody off with a no. You always want to start people off with a yes, yes, yes. Once you got them saying yes, you just kind of psychologically lead them into your Army interview. So you got to open the avenues of conversation, and that's what I would do. And the other guys would always close up. I mean, people would walk away from them, like right away. And I'd be sitting there laughing. "What are you laughing at?" I go, "It's just funny that I'm talking to a lot of people and you're running them off, But that's a little tip for you guys. If you're going to be in sales, best to talk about something that you might think the person you're talking to really likes, get some yeses going, and then go, "By the way, I was wondering if you're interested in, or have you ever been interested in whatever," and then you kind of lead them into. And I'm not the greatest salesman. There's probably salespeople here on YouTube that could teach me things like, So I'm not the best. I'm just kind of giving you what I've learned through experiences, things that have worked. I mean, obviously, if people were talking to me and they weren't talking to my fellow recruiters, I was doing something right. And then we had one guy, Staff Sergeant Moretz. Was that his name? Staff Sergeant Moretz, I think. Yeah, Moretz. This guy. Tune in next week. I want to talk about this guy. Chris Moretz. That was his name. His name was Chris. His first name was Chris. Wait for the car to go by. Are you done? Okay. And Chris, oh my God. You guys got to hear about Chris. You got to tune in next week and hear about Chris. Oh my God. Oh man, you got to hear what he did with his recruiting badge. And you got to hear about the piercing he got. It was funny. And what he did to our first sergeant and or that was our commander's car. You got to hear what this guy did to our company commander's car. Oh. So you guys got to tune in. I'll tell you more about Chris next week. Oh, you got to hear about this guy. Oh, he was funny. Oh, man. And by the way, we did have another guy, Sergeant, what was his name? He had a, not a weasel, but what's the other thing like a weasel? Ferret. He had a ferret named Harley. He had a ferret named Harley. I don't know. I think he had a Harley Davidson too, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, that's my introduction to recruiting duty. I was in recruiting for 3 years, the worst fucking 3 years of my life. And we're going to talk more about it next week, so I hope to see you guys back.